The Imperial scout ship, Starweaver, hung in Earth's orbit like a silver needle against the black fabric of space. Inside its command center, Admiral Gray watched the blue planet with growing interest. His scaled fingers tapped rhythmically on the metallic armrest of his command chair. "Primitive," he muttered, studying the reading from their long-range scanners. "Only a handful of orbital stations and a few lunar outposts. They'd barely have proper space travel." The Empire had found thousands of civilizations before, and this one seemed no different from the others. The procedure was always the same: demonstrate superior power, demand submission, and add another species to their vast collection of servant races. Lord Marcus, the Empire's chief diplomat, stood beside the Admiral. His tall, slender frame cast a long shadow across the polished floor. "Shall we begin the standard first contact protocol, Admiral?" "Yes." Admiral Gray nodded. "Send the message. Let's see how these humans respond." The ship's advanced communications array broadcast their arrival message to every major frequency on Earth. Within hours, the humans had arranged a meeting. The Empire found this surprisingly quick. Most species usually took days to overcome their shock and fear. The meeting location was set in a place the humans called Geneva. The Imperial delegation landed their shuttle in a large open area, where human military forces stood in neat rows. Admiral Gray noticed something odd. Instead of looking afraid, the human soldiers appeared calm. Too calm. Lord Marcus led the Imperial group toward a large building where the human leaders waited. He wore his finest ceremonial armor, designed to intimidate with its sharp angles and gleaming surfaces. The human delegation, in contrast, wore simple dark suits. "Greetings," Lord Marcus announced, his translator converting his words to Earth's major languages. "I am Lord Marcus, representative of the Galactic Empire. We have come to offer you the privilege of joining our vast civilization." Ambassador Stone, a middle-aged man with gray hair and steady eyes, stepped forward. His expression remained neutral, but there was something in his eyes that made Admiral Gray uncomfortable. "Welcome to Earth," Ambassador Stone said simply. "We're interested in hearing your proposal." Lord Marcus smiled, showing his pointed teeth. "The terms are simple. Earth will become a protectorate of the Empire. You will provide resources and soldiers when requested. In return, you'll receive limited access to Imperial technology and trade routes." The human delegation exchanged glances. Ambassador Stone's expression didn't change. "And if we decline?" Lord Marcus's smile widened. "Then we demonstrate why that would be unwise. The Empire does not accept rejection." The room grew quiet. Admiral Gray expected to see fear in the humans' eyes. Instead, he saw something that worried him. They looked almost pitying. "I would strongly advise against threats," Ambassador Stone said softly. "You really don't want to do that." Lord Marcus laughed. "You don't seem to understand your situation. One of our smallest ships could level your largest cities. We have thousands of ships." Ambassador Stone sighed and looked at his colleagues. They nodded slightly. "This is your final chance," Stone said, his voice carrying a weight that made some Imperial officers step back. "Withdraw your threat. Let's discuss this as equals." "Equals?" Lord Marcus sneered. "You barely have space travel. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Perhaps a demonstration will help you understand your place." He raised his hand, sending a signal to the Starweaver. "Target the uninhabited region known as the Sahara Desert." A small plasma blast shoaled. "Stop," Stone interrupted, but Lord Marcus ignored him. "Fire." The room fell silent. Ambassador Stone closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. "You should have listened." He touched a small device on his wrist. "Earth Defense Command. Protocol Omega is now active. I repeat, Protocol Omega is active." Admiral Gray felt a chill run down his spine as he realized something terrible. The humans weren't afraid because they didn't need to be. And the Empire had just made a terrible mistake. The first warning signals from the Starweaver began to sound. and the true nature of humanity was about to reveal itself. The Starweaver's weapons officer pressed the firing button. On the main screen, a bright beam of energy shot toward Earth's surface. Lord Marcus smiled, expecting to see a devastating explosion in the desert below. The beam never reached its target. Instead, it vanished about 1,000 kilometers above Earth's surface, absorbed by what looked like rippling air. Admiral Gray's eyes widened as his ship's sensors suddenly came alive with thousands of new readings. "Impossible," he whispered. All around Earth, space itself seemed to shimmer as hidden defense platforms appeared out of nowhere. The Empire's most advanced cloaking technology could hide a small ship, but these humans had somehow hidden an entire planetary defense system. "My lord," the sensor officer called out, his voice shaking. "We're detecting over 10,000 orbital weapons platforms. They were there all along. Our sensors couldn't see them." In Geneva, Ambassador Stone stood calmly as he spoke into his communicator. "All defense grid commanders, you are cleared to reveal your positions. Show our visitors exactly what they're dealing with." Admiral Gray watched in horror as more readings appeared on his screens. Hidden bases on the moon emerged from under what looked like simple crater surfaces. Asteroid bases that had appeared to be nothing but space rocks transformed into heavily armed fortresses. "Sir," another officer shouted, "the humans are using some kind of quantum technology we've never seen before. Their weapons, they're not in just one place. They somehow exist in multiple locations at once." Lord Marcus's confident smile had vanished. He turned to Ambassador Stone, his face pale. "How? You're supposed to be primitive. You barely have space travel." Stone's expression remained neutral. "We let you think that. We've learned it's better when others underestimate us. For the record, we've had quantum phase technology for over 50 years. We just didn't show it off." On the Starweaver's bridge, chaos erupted as more revelations came in. The ship's AI discovered that what they had thought were simple communication satellites were actually part of an interconnected weapon grid. Earth's seemingly basic space stations transformed, revealing advanced weapon systems that had been disguised as maintenance equipment. "Target their main fleet," Lord Marcus ordered desperately through his communicator. "I wouldn't," Stone said quietly. "Look up." Through the windows of the Geneva building, the sky had changed. Dozens of human ships emerged from what looked like tiers in space itself. They had been hiding in artificial pocket dimensions, another technology the Empire had never mastered. Captain Walker of the Earth Defense Fleet spoke from the lead ship. "All Imperial vessels are now targeted. Our quantum-locked weapons can hit you in multiple timelines simultaneously. Surrender, or we'll be forced to demonstrate." Admiral Gray's tactical display showed the horrible truth. They were completely surrounded. The humans hadn't built their defenses in normal space. They had somehow created a three-dimensional web of quantum-entangled weapons that could strike from any angle, through any defense. "How long?" Lord Marcus asked, his voice hoarse. "How long have you been preparing for this?" Ambassador Stone looked out the window at the now-revealed Earth Defense Fleet. "Since the first alien ship crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, in 1947. We knew we weren't alone. Instead of fighting each other, we secretly prepared for this day. Every nation, working together in secret, building defenses that no one would expect." The room fell silent as Stone turned back to face the Imperial delegation. "We didn't want this. We would have happily joined the Empire as equals. But you chose to threaten us. That was a mistake." On the Starweaver's bridge, Admiral Gray made the only choice he could. "All Imperial ships, power down weapons. We surrender." As the Imperial ships lowered their shields, Ambassador Stone spoke one last time. "Remember this day. Not because of what we could have done to you, but because of what we chose not to do. We could have destroyed your entire fleet. Instead, we're choosing to talk." The Empire had made its first major mistake in centuries. They had looked at humanity's visible technology and assumed they knew everything. They didn't realize that humans had long ago learned to keep their true strength hidden waiting and watching, ready for the day they would need it. And now, the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Walker stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defender, watching the Imperial fleet through the main view screen. His black uniform bore no medals or decorations. Humans had learned long ago that showing off made you a target. All ships report ready, his second-in-command, Commander Ross, announced. The quantum net is fully active. Walker nodded, his gray eyes fixed on the Imperial vessels. Years of training had prepared him for this moment. Begin Operation Checkmate. Across space, Earth's hidden fleet moved with perfect coordination. Unlike the Imperial ships' flashy engines, human vessels used gravity drives that bent light around them. They appeared to slide through space like ghosts. "Sir," Ross reported, Team Alpha has positioned the phase nets around the Imperial heavy cruisers. The phase nets were one of humanity's clever inventions. They didn't just capture ships, they caught the space around them. Walker remembered the scientist who created them saying, "Why chase your target when you can simply grab the part of space they're sitting in?" "Execute primary containment," Walker ordered. Streams of quantum-locked energy shot out from Earth's ships, connecting in complex patterns around the Imperial fleet. The energy streams didn't target the ships directly. Instead, they created a web of altered space-time that made movement impossible. Inside the Starweaver, Admiral Gray watched in horror as his ship's engines failed to move them even a millimeter. "What is this technology?" he demanded. Through the communication channel, Walker's voice was calm. "We call it space anchoring. Your engines can run at full power, but you're not going anywhere. The space around your ships isn't allowing movement." Lord Marcus, still in the Geneva building, couldn't believe what he was seeing on the tactical displays. Half of the Imperial fleet was already under human control, captured without a single shot fired. "Impossible," he whispered. "Our shields are irrelevant," Ambassador Stone explained. "We're not attacking your ships. We're simply adjusting the nature of space itself around them. No shield can block that because you're not in the space we're affecting. You're inside it." The operation continued with mechanical precision. Human ships moved in perfect formation, their crews working with practiced ease. This wasn't just a battle plan. It was something they had rehearsed countless times. "Admiral Gray," Walker called through the command channel, "you have two options. Either power down your ships completely, or we'll be forced to demonstrate our offensive capabilities." To emphasize the point, a small human corvette appeared near one of the Imperial destroyers. It fired a single shot, not at the destroyer, but at empty space nearby. The space where the shot hit seemed to fold in on itself, creating a tiny controlled black hole that vanished a second later. "That was at 10% power," Walker explained. "Shall I demonstrate 20%? Admiral Gray's face had turned a pale shade of green. "All Imperial ships, power down immediately. Full shutdown. No exceptions." As the Imperial ships went dark one by one, Commander Ross turned to Captain Walker. "Sir, should we tell them about the rest?" Walker shook his head. "They're not ready to learn that we've had bases in other star systems for decades, or that we've already mapped most of their empire using quantum probes they can't detect." In Geneva, Ambassador Stone was explaining things to the shaken Imperial delegation. "The ships that crashed on Earth centuries ago, we didn't just study them, we improved them. While you were perfecting bigger guns, we were learning to manipulate space itself." Lord Marcus finally found his voice. "Why? Why hide all this?" Stone's answer was simple. Because humanity learned its greatest lesson from its own history. The best defense isn't a strong army. It's having strength that no one knows about until they force you to use it. As the last Imperial ship powered down, Captain Walker allowed himself a small smile. The Empire had expected to find primitive humans cowering before their advanced technology. Instead, they had walked into a trap centuries in the making. And this was only the beginning of their education about humanity. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the transmission from Earth began. The council members, representing over 300 spacefaring species, watched the massive display screens with growing unease. High Counselor Reed of the Empire sat rigid in his seat, his face growing paler with each passing moment. Next to him, the other council members shifted uncomfortably in their ornate chairs. The human presentation was playing on all screens, showing detailed footage of the recent confrontation. But that wasn't what worried the council. It was what came next. As you can see, Ambassador Stone's voice explained calmly. What we displayed during the incident was approximately 5% of Earth's defensive capabilities. For the sake of transparency, we will now share some additional information. The screens change, showing hundreds of combat scenarios. Each one demonstrated a different way humanity could have completely destroyed the Imperial fleet. The simulations were precise, detailed, and terrifying in their efficiency. Scenario 47. A calm computer voice announced. Quantum resonance cascade. Total fleet destruction in 3.7 seconds. No survivors. Scenario 48. Controlled micro-singularity field. Total fleet capture in 2.2 seconds. All ships preserved for study. Scenario 49. Time-locked stasis field. Fleet frozen in temporal bubble for later disposal. High Counselor Reed's hands gripped his armrests tightly. "Stop this transmission," he ordered. "We can't," a technical advisor whispered. "They've bypassed all our security. They're broadcasting on quantum channels we didn't even know existed." The scenarios continued, each more impressive than the last. The humans hadn't just developed advanced weapons. They had created entire branches of physics that the Empire had never discovered. "We now present our analysis of Imperial military capabilities," Ambassador Stone's voice continued. The screens filled with detailed technical specifications of every ship, weapon, and defense system in the Imperial fleet. "Impossible," one council member shouted. "These are our most closely guarded secrets." A new voice joined the transmission. Captain Walker of the Earth Defense Fleet. "We've had quantum observer probes in every major Imperial facility for the past 50 years. Your security can't detect them because they exist partially outside normal spacetime." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Species that had feared the Empire for centuries were suddenly seeing its weaknesses laid bare. The humans hadn't just defeated an Imperial fleet. They had compiled a complete catalog of Imperial military capabilities. "But why show us this?" High Counselor Reed demanded. "Why reveal your strength?" Ambassador Stone appeared on the main screen, his expression serious but not threatening. "Because the galaxy needs to understand something about humans. We don't want to fight. We don't want to conquer. We don't want to rule. We just want to explore, trade, and learn." The screens changed again, showing peaceful scenes from Earth. Children playing, scientists working, artists creating, families laughing. But Stone continued, his voice hardening slightly. "If anyone forces us to fight, they should understand exactly what they're risking. This presentation isn't a threat. It's a warning, and more importantly, it's an invitation." "An invitation to what?" Reed asked cautiously. "To peace. Real peace, not enforced submission. We're willing to share some of our advances. Clean energy, medical technology, environmental restoration. But only with those who treat us as equals." The council chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just defeated an Imperial fleet. They had changed the balance of power in the galaxy without firing a single destructive shot. As the transmission ended, one young council member asked the question everyone was thinking. How did they advance so far without anyone knowing? An older member, known for his wisdom, answered softly, "Because while we were busy showing off our power, they were busy building theirs, and they were smart enough to keep it hidden until they needed it." The council would debate long into the night, but one thing was already clear. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. The species that seemed primitive had turned out to be anything but, and their demonstration had shaken the foundations of galactic politics forever. The Imperial Intelligence Chief, Director Blake, stood before the Galactic Council, his hands trembling slightly as he held his data tablet. The emergency session had been called after his team made a disturbing discovery about humans. "Council members," he began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "What I'm about to share will change how we view humans forever." The massive screens behind him lit up with DNA structures, brain scans, and evolutionary charts. Unlike the humans' earlier presentation, this one came from the Empire's own research. Most species in our galaxy evolved through clear, predictable paths, Blake explained. The Council races each developed specific advantages. The Empire's people evolved for strength. The trading worlds developed enhanced mental capabilities. The frontier worlds adapted for survival in harsh environments. He paused, touching his screen to show a new image. The human evolutionary path. But humans are different. They didn't specialize. They generalized. They adapted to adapt. The council members leaned forward, interested despite their lingering fear of humans. High Counselor Reed spoke first. "Explain what you mean, Director." "Most species evolve their bodies first, then develop tools. Humans are the only known species that developed tools while they were still evolving. This meant their biology and technology evolved together." The screen showed ancient human cave paintings next to modern spacecraft designs. "Look at how they think. When they can't do something naturally, they don't accept it as a limitation. They invent a way around it. Can't fly. They built flying machines. Can't breathe underwater. They made submarines. Can't survive in space. They created ships that carry their environment with them." Every limitation became an invitation to innovate. One council member interrupted, "But surely other species do this too." "No," Blake replied firmly. "We adapt our technology to enhance what we can already do. Humans adapt their technology to do what they can't do. It's a completely different way of thinking." The screens changed to show human medical facilities. Here's the most frightening part. They're still evolving. While most species reached their evolutionary endpoint millions of years ago, humans are actively changing. They're the only species we found that can safely merge biological and technological advancement. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. Species that had stopped evolving millions of years ago couldn't comprehend a race that was still changing. "There's more," Blake continued. "Their ability to imagine danger has made them uniquely prepared for it. Every human advancement came from asking, what if? What if we're attacked? What if we need to defend ourselves? What if we need to survive in space?" He showed clips of human entertainment, movies and books about alien invasions, space warfare, and first contact scenarios. They've been mentally preparing for meeting aliens for centuries. Through their fiction, they've already fought thousands of imaginary wars, survived countless disasters, and faced every possible threat. That's why they were ready for us, High Counselor Reed realized aloud. They had already imagined and prepared for every way we might threaten them. "Exactly," Blake nodded. "And their generalist evolution means they can think in ways we can't predict. While we think in straight lines, they think in webs. While we see limitations, they see challenges. While we follow patterns, they break them." The screen showed one final image, a simple human child solving a puzzle. This child will naturally think of more possible solutions than most of our adult scientists. Not because humans are smarter, but because they never stopped evolving the ability to adapt. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They hadn't just encountered another advanced species. They had found one that was fundamentally different from anything they had seen before. "So what do we do?" someone finally asked. Director Blake closed his presentation. "We learn from them. Because if humans are still evolving, still adapting, still changing, they're going to keep surprising us. And based on what we've seen, it's better to be their friend than their enemy." The council members looked at each other nervously. They had all reached the same conclusion. Humanity wasn't just powerful, they were unique in the galaxy. And that made them more fascinating and more frightening than anyone had imagined. The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with holographic displays as Ambassador Stone walked to the center platform. Unlike the ornate robes worn by other species representatives, he wore a simple black suit. His footsteps echoed in the unusual silence. High Counselor Reed watched from his elevated seat, trying to hide his nervousness. The last week had been difficult for the Empire. Their military defeat, the revelations about human capabilities, and now this crucial negotiation. Members of the Council, Stone began, his voice calm but firm. I bring two things today, a proposal and a choice. The Chamber's automatic translators conveyed his words to all species present. Stone touched a small device on his wrist, and new holograms appeared around him. These are the underground resistance movements in every corner of your empire, he said. The holograms showed various alien species fighting against Imperial control. And yes, we've been in contact with all of them. Gasps filled the chamber. High Counselor Reed's face darkened. That's impossible. Our security is good. Stone nodded, but not good enough. We've had quantum communication networks operating throughout your empire for decades. Did you really think Earth was our only base? The holograms change, showing hidden human outposts scattered across countless systems. Each one had been disguised as a natural formation or space debris. Our proposal is simple, Stone continued. Option 1. The Empire transitions to a cooperative alliance of equal worlds. Earth will share some of our technological advances, clean energy, medical breakthroughs, faster space travel. We'll help create a fair system where all species can thrive. He paused, letting his words sink in. Option 2. We release our defensive technology designs to every resistance movement in the Empire. By this time tomorrow, every oppressed species will know how to build quantum weapons and space-time shields. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Giving advanced weapons to resistance movements would tear the Empire apart in weeks. You would start a galactic civil war, one council member shouted. Stone shook his head. No, we would give oppressed people the ability to defend themselves. What happens next would be the Empire's choice. He gestured and new holograms appeared, peaceful scenes from Earth, showing different nations working together. Earth was once like your empire, divided, fighting, each group trying to dominate others. We learned, through painful experience, that cooperation works better than control. High Counselor Reed leaned forward. And if we refuse both options? There is no third option, Stone replied quietly. We've already sent quantum-encrypted data packets to every resistance group. If this negotiation fails, they automatically decrypt in 24 hours. The council members looked at each other in alarm. The humans hadn't just outmaneuvered them militarily. They had created a situation with only two possible outcomes. How can we trust you? Reed asked. How do we know you won't use this cooperation to take control yourselves? Stone smiled slightly. Because we could have taken control already. We didn't. We won't. Earth learned long ago that the strongest position isn't ruling others. It's making others want to work with you. He walked slowly around the platform, making eye contact with different council members. We don't want your resources. We don't want your territories. We want a galaxy where our children can explore, learn, and grow without fear, where every species has a voice, where technology serves everyone, not just the powerful. The chamber grew quiet as the truth became clear. The humans hadn't come to conquer. They had come to change everything. You have 12 hours to decide, Stone concluded. Choose wisely. Because either way, the galaxy changes tomorrow. The only question is whether that change comes through cooperation or conflict. As Ambassador Stone stepped down from the platform, High Counselor Reed realized something profound. The humans hadn't just defeated their fleet. They had outmaneuvered the entire empire without firing a single shot. The age of imperial dominance was ending. And somehow, these humans had engineered its fall using the most powerful weapons of all, hope and choice. 1 month after the historic negotiation, Young Officer Tom stood in the Imperial Academy's main lecture hall. He was part of the first class of officers to learn the new human protocol, rules that would be sent to every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. Commander Mills, a veteran who had witnessed the Earth incident firsthand, stood before the large group of officers. His expression was serious as he activated the holographic display. The human protocol isn't just another set of guidelines, Mills began. It's the most important document the Empire has ever created, because it might save your life one day. The holographic display showed Earth rotating peacefully in space. It looked harmless, beautiful even. Mills smiled grimly at his students' confused faces. "You're wondering why we need special rules for dealing with just one planet?" he asked. "Let me tell you what happened after our surrender." The display changed to show the massive changes across the galaxy in just 1 month. Clean energy systems provided power to formerly poor worlds. New medical technologies saved millions of lives. Faster ships connected distant colonies. The humans kept their word, Mills continued. They shared their advances, but they shared something even more valuable, their way of thinking. He touched a control, and the human protocol appeared in glowing text. Rule 1. Humans always appear less advanced than they are. They hide their true capabilities. Mills explained. What you see is never what they have. They're probably centuries ahead of what they show. Rule 2. Humans prefer peace but excel at war. They spend more time preparing for war than any species we know, Mills said. Not because they want to fight, but because they want to be so well prepared that no one dares to attack them. Rule 3. Humans think differently. While we see problems, they see puzzles to solve. While we follow patterns, they break them. While we specialize, they adapt. Rule 4. Humans turn weaknesses into strengths. They take what should limit them and transform it into an advantage. Their whole civilization is built on overcoming limitations. Rule 5. Never give humans a reason to fight back. Mills paused here, his voice growing quiet. Because if you do, you won't get a second chance. Young Officer Tom raised his hand. "Sir, if humans are so powerful, why don't they just rule the galaxy?" They clearly could. The entire hall fell silent. Mills smiled. He'd been waiting for this question. "Let me tell you about my conversation with Captain Walker of the Earth Defense Fleet," Mills replied. "I asked him the same thing." The hologram showed Walker's recorded response. "Ruling the galaxy would be easy, but it would also be boring. We don't want to control the galaxy. We want to explore it, learn from it, grow with it. Power isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself." Mills turned back to his students. "That's what makes humans truly dangerous. They're not just powerful. They're wise enough to use that power carefully." He showed final images. Human children playing with alien children, scientists of different species working together, new colonies being built by combined teams. "The galaxy is changing," Mills concluded. "The old empire is becoming something new. A true alliance of worlds. And it all started because we made the mistake of threatening one seemingly primitive planet. Remember these protocols. Share them. Because somewhere out there, another civilization might think about threatening Earth. And it's our duty to warn them. Never provoke humans. Not because humans will destroy you, but because they'll prove there was always a better way." As the lecture ended, Officer Tom looked at his notes. The human protocol wasn't just about fear or power. It was about understanding a species that had mastered the greatest strength of all. The wisdom to be powerful without needing to prove it. The last line in the protocol summed it up perfectly. In a galaxy of species that evolved to be the strongest, humans evolved to be the wisest. And that makes all the difference.